do that, and we are ready. So we are just ready to start now, and I would love it if you would take a moment and introduce yourself to me in the chat box. We are always a small group. This is a very niche group that I work with because we are typically all herbalists or nutritionists or naturopaths. That right there reduces the amount of people that are interested, and we are interested in iridology, so that takes that small group and makes it even smaller. So I would love it if you would take just a moment and just give me a little bit in the chat box, maybe tell me where you're from and what background you've already got. Do you practice iridology? Are you a nutrition coach? Are you a herbalist? It would just be great to get to know you a little bit as we are getting started here. This training is going to be about 90 minutes long, and so it's fun to get to know who is with me on this. So on the screen, I've asked for your favorite thing to do. I'd rather know where you're from and what your background is personally. But I'll tell you what my favorite thing to do is. My husband and I really like to go on hardware store dates. So we will go to these stores that sell all the things to do home renovations, and we will plan the renovations we are never going to do. So we'll come up with a theme like the bluest renovation or the ugliest renovation or the most expensive renovation, and we'll go around and we'll just make lists of things that we would do on that renovation. And you know what's funny is we have 7 children. They're all grown and gone now, but we've been doing this for years, these fun little renovation dates. And while our kids were at home and they would hear we were going to do a reno date, they would just roll their eyes at us and our parents are so lame. And we just thought that was so cute that they totally did not get what the purpose of a date was. And so that's great. Lots of fun. Here we are talking about how to create more success in your business. And we're going to do that with going over 4 key stumbling blocks that get in the way of most nutritionists and herbalists and naturopaths practices that actually help to sabotage their business. Because we want to be more productive, more on point in our client sessions to really help our clients feel heard, to really meet their needs, to create the kind of relationship with them that makes them want to keep coming back. So this is going to be a super interactive training. And I'd love to have a conversation with you through the chat box. So I hope that when I ask for you to weigh in on things, that you will actually answer questions and contribute to make it more interactive. It's really rare in this day and age that we can actually give our undivided attention to anything. So I'm going to encourage you, if you've got one of these, and who doesn't have at least one of them nowadays, can you put it on airplane mode for the next 90 minutes or turn it off completely, unless of course you're watching this webinar on that. If you can turn off the distractions, maybe close the door, that kind of stuff, so you can focus, that would be fabulous. Because you've set aside this time tonight for a reason. Maybe that reason is that there's something not quite right in your business. And maybe it's that you don't really feel focused and in control and confident in your business, but you really want to. Maybe you're tired of spending hours unpaid and overtime creating your client protocols. Maybe you're frustrated because you create protocols for your clients, but your clients can't seem to stick with them, so they're not getting the results that you know they could get if they could just do what you have instructed them. Maybe you are spent with constantly having to find new clients. Marketing a business is hard work and expensive, and maybe that's what you're really not happy with. Or this is one of the big ones that I hear a lot of. Maybe you've got that nagging thought in the back of your brain that says, I should just get a real job, and you don't really want to. Are any of those sounding at all familiar to you? Because if they are, you can turn all of that around. And so I'm just encouraging you to stay with me to the very end of our time today, because I'm going to give you 4 really important things that I've learned in my 40 years of being a natural health coach that have helped me to turn my business around dramatically. And for staying to the end, I'm going to give you a bonus. I'm going to give you a link to a document that will start to change the way you actually work with clients. We all like presents, right? And that's what this is. This is just a way for me to say thank you for staying to the end. That document is called the Imbalance Priority Checklist. And what it will do is, regardless of what modalities you currently use, it will help you to prioritize your clients' needs, the actions they need to take along the way, the specific steps in little teeny steps. And it's going to help you to focus your work and chunk down the homework you give to your clients so they can really do what you've instructed them, so they can have more success, and that will make them want to keep coming back and to be a long-term repeat client. Does that sound like something you'd like? If it is, I'd love to have you type "I'm staying" in the chat box if you are committed to being with me for the next 90 minutes. Here's my promise to you today. I'm going to introduce you to a simple, clear-cut system that's going to help you stop working overtime and significantly reduce the paperwork that you do while still inspiring your clients. Yay! Still inspiring your clients. And I'm going to, and that yay was because we've got people saying they are staying with us. That is wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm going to showcase a little bit the easily learnable skill of dynamic iridology that can help you access everything you already know, and how to share that with your how to share what your client needs to know without overwhelming him. If that sounds good, I'd love to see an "oh yeah" in the chat box. If you want to be able to create programs right in your paid client sessions that you'll get done in your sessions that your clients can stick with, that will make them to want to come back. That's good. Give me that "oh yeah." What I'm going to share with you tonight is specifically how and why what you've been doing for the last many years to create your client health programs doesn't work. And I'm going to walk you through what does work. Imagine being able to skip over all of the trial and erroring and just do what works. I know when I finally figured these steps out for myself that I'm going to share with you, it changed my life. It certainly changed my clients' lives, and it changed my students' lives as well. And I know it can change yours too. So if that sounds good, type in, give me a yes in that chat box. Before we dive in, I want to know if any of this sounds like something you'd like to have more of. Because in the next 90 minutes, I'm going to help you see how you can get more of this. How to get your client programs done right in your client sessions. No more overtime for you. How to outline content for 4 to 6 more follow-up appointments in the very first session. So you've got a roadmap. We're going to talk about the importance of that. I'm going to share with you how to create programs that your clients can easily stick with and still get results. Sound good? And I'm going to share with you how to keep your appointment book full with clients who are eager to come back and work with you and who can't stop telling their friends about you. Does that all sound good? Does it? You know, if you're nodding your head yes, give me a hands up or give me a yes in the chat box. Let me know that you're still with me. I want you to know that it's not your fault. Whatever challenges you're having in your business, it's not your fault. And I know what those challenges are because I've been through them. I'm not a stalker watching you, but I have struggled with all of these. And I really do know it's not your fault. The number of practitioners I've worked with that have had the same story of the challenges they had and how we've resolved them is really significant here. It's hard to know who is right and who to trust. And if you feel like anything I did back then, I would have done just about anything to put an end to all of the overtime that I was working and all of the extras that I was doing that weren't paying off. But you know, the things that I tried didn't work really, because the problem was, and still is for many of you, that the old way of creating programs for your clients doesn't work. And you know the way I'm talking about. It's the one that says every appointment needs to be treated like a complete case study. And when you continue to write health programs in that old way over and over again, it makes the problem worse. You donate more time on the next one thinking maybe if you add more detail, more reference, more recipes, more anything, that your client will get better results and they'll keep coming back. But you know what? Giving your client more content only serves to overwhelm them, and it reduces the chance that they will ever come back. Is that maybe something that you're struggling with? That your clients come in, you give them your best, and then they don't come back? Yeah, if that's what you're doing and seeing, give me a sad face in the comments box. I know it's frustrating, and I totally get it. And you're just doing what you learned to do in school, but it's not working. Let me give you an example of this and see if this sounds at all familiar. I would see a client for the very first time, and all of my first appointments were scheduled to last 1 hour. The client would arrive, and I would ask them to come early, like 10 or 15 minutes early, to fill in some paperwork, and they never would. They would show up right on time, and I didn't clue in that I should just tell them to come 15 minutes earlier, and but at any rate, and they'd show up on time. I'd give them that 4 pages of questions that I needed answers to. And so 10 or 15 minutes into her appointment, she'd finally be done the paperwork. And then I'd ask her what she wanted help with, and I'd read her written answers, and I'd ask her more questions, and then I'd make more notes. And then I'd start teaching her more than she could possibly absorb in one session. And we'd be pushing the 2-hour mark. We'd schedule the next appointment, for which I would prepare a massive report and resource folder. And a good chunk of the time, she would cancel last minute. I could not for the life of me figure out what I was doing wrong. And why didn't my clients come back? Hadn't I given them good solutions to their problems? Hadn't I given them good value for their dollar? I gave them 2 or 3 hours, and I only charged them for 1. After a few years, I started having that thought circle around in my head over and over again, the one that said, get a real job. You'd make more money with less stress working at McDonald's. Have you ever had that kind of a conversation with yourself? Please tell me I'm not alone, that I'm not the only one to ever do that. Have you had that thought that you should maybe get a real job? So I actually did try to get a real job. In high school, I did part-time jobs that were always office work, and in university, I always had office jobs as summer jobs. But what I discovered when I went to apply for a full-time job was I wasn't a good enough typist. I mean, back then it was typing, it wasn't keyboarding, right? And so I was miserable. I was unemployable, apparently. I felt like a failure. But I also knew that I was on the leading edge of something big. This was in the early 1980s, and natural nutrition and holistic lifestyles were just coming out of the hippie generation and into vogue. But I couldn't figure out how to make this thing work. It wasn't the way I wanted my life to be. And if you relate to that in any way, I'm sure that you don't have quite the life that you envisioned either. And that's why I am so glad you are here today. Because what I'm about to share with you is the fastest and simplest way to have a happily full appointment book. Sound good? To be able to get home or to the soccer field or the hockey rink for your kids' games every time. Now, I don't have kids anymore, at least not kids at home. I still have kids, they're just grown and gone. And now I get to make it to my grandkids' soccer games and their concerts at school and things like that. That's how you get voted Grandma of the Year, right? I can share with you this fast and amazing way to help your clients feel successful for working with you. to help your clients want to come back again and again, and for you to feel successful because your business is becoming what you always wanted it to be. I would love to know in the chat box, which of those things, which of those dreams do you really want? Or is there something you want even more? What is the reason that you want to be there? So before I go any further, I should introduce myself. I'm Judith Cobb. I'm a natural nutrition clinical practitioner, a master herbalist, and a certified comprehensive iridology instructor. I'm also the founder of the Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology System. I've been a holistic wellness coach for 40 years. I don't look a day over 35, do I? And I get really excited when I have the chance to support and mentor nutritionists, herbalists, and naturopaths who want to put an end to the unpaid overtime of creating their client health programs, but they still want to give the very best client care they can. But 35 years ago, I was struggling and I was working way too much overtime to get my client programs designed. I was tired. I had a husband, yes, but we also had 2 kids. We were expecting baby number 3. I was depleted, passionless, starting to really resent my business, and overwhelmed with trying to get those darn programs designed. I really believed back then, and I still believe now, that while some programs can be very similar, every program needs at least a little bit of customization. Do you feel that same way? Do you believe that everyone deserves a little tweak? I had herbology, nutrition, one style of iridology, and biokinesiology under my belt, and yet it wasn't working. You know I'm not the only one who has struggled like this, and I would love to know if you have struggled at all like this as well, feeling a little discouraged with how your business is going. So there I was, feeling discouraged and dejected, and then I decided that's it, no more. I'd had another one of those 1-hour sessions turn into a 3-hour session. We had scheduled up a follow-up appointment, and the morning of the appointment, the client canceled. I decided that I was going to figure out how to keep my appointments down to time without sacrificing client care. I decided that I was going to figure out how to make my clients feel like if they didn't come back in again, they'd be missing out on the most amazing chance to up their wellness game. And it didn't matter how long it took or what I had to do, I was going to figure this out. And that's when I started the journey that got me where I am today. And I am so grateful that I made that decision to invest in myself and learn constitutional iridology, or I'd probably still be trying to overload my clients with tons of information and not getting anywhere. And that decision to learn constitutional iridology was the starting point for figuring out that what I'd been doing for all of those years was almost completely wrong. I've built the Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology System by trial and error and experimentation. And I've been sharing it with herbalists and nutritionists and naturopaths for the past several years so they can skip over the years of trial and error that I had to go through, and they can just end their struggle and get their work done right in their client sessions. It's like Oprah says, when you know better, you do better, right? Even though I am now able to create health programs right in my sessions without any overtime, it took me a few years to figure it all out. I had to unlearn so much of what I thought were the right things as I discovered how wrong they were. And I had to test out different methods to see which ones worked for me. I struggled in the process and I took a lot of courses. Most of those courses only led to more frustration, to questionnaires for clients, more ideas like one-size-fits-all templates for programs. And it was only learning constitutional iridology that really started me on the path to finding the solution. It took a lot of time and patience, and there was no way I could have actually created Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology without having learned constitutional iridology. Now, I was fully committed to figuring this out, and there was no way I wanted to go back to the things that I had been doing. I wanted something new. I wanted something better. What I discovered was constitutional iridology, learning it in and of itself wasn't everything I needed. I needed to learn not just the practice of it, but how to actually apply it in a clinical situation. And no one was teaching that back then. I also discovered that I actually knew enough nutrition and herbology to truly help my clients, and I didn't need to spend extra hours doing more research. I already knew what I needed to know. And I figured out that what I didn't know was how to identify, sort, and prioritize what I knew to create simple, effective programs for my clients. When I finally understood that, the solution became so clear and so easy, and I began to understand that if I could apply constitutional iridology appropriately in my appointments, I could get my programs written right while I was with my client. So before we dive into those 4 stumbling blocks and their solutions, I want to share with you a case study of one of my graduates, because it's important that you see examples of what real success looks like so that you can ground yourself in the knowing that it's possible for you too. Karen Choate came to me already well-trained as a certified natural health practitioner, and she specializes in digestive health issues. She'd been in practice for several years, but she was frustrated that with all of her training and her years of practice and experience, that she still struggled to determine the root of her clients' issues and to create programs that her clients could easily follow. She spent a lot of time after hours, unpaid, doing research, just like I used to create her programs, even though she already knew her stuff. And her clients often didn't come back after they got their program instructions. The few that did had problems sticking with all of her intricate recommendations. So Karen became interested in iridology, and she found me online. She signed up for Confident Nutritionist Iridology, Dynamic Iridology, and as the course progressed, she started sending me emails telling me about the successes she was having and how the way she was changing things was affecting her clients in such positive ways. By the end of the course, she was doing almost no unpaid homework and was comfortably creating programs for her clients right in her paid sessions. She said to me, even before she'd finished the course, "Now I've begun to implement this incredible work in my practice quite successfully. It truly has helped immensely in my decisions and assessments. I am definitely a much more confident nutritionist." Go Karen, right? I want you to take a moment now and imagine you not having to spend your own time creating client programs. Imagine you feeling confident and sure of yourself as you make program recommendations on the spot in your sessions. Imagine you having more free time. What would you do with that free time? Would that allow you to see more clients and increase your income? Would it allow you to spend more time with people that are important to you? Would it allow you to have a hobby? Or maybe a little bit of all of those. Imagine you having an appointment book full of clients who love working with you so much that they can't stop telling their friends about you. Let me know in the chat box there, in the comment box, which of those things are more important to you. Which of those things would you like to have? The no unpaid homework, the more confidence, the more free time, or that full appointment book? And it's perfectly okay to say you want them all. So let's look at stumbling block number 1. I've seen this in people who are brand new as practitioners and people who have years of experience. It's called fire hosing your clients with too much information. So I want you in your mind's eye to see a fireman holding one of those great big super heavy hoses that they connect to the fire hydrant, and you're holding that, but what's coming out of it is a blast of information. You're blasting that onto your client. That water comes out with a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of it, and it literally knocks your client over. In school, you were taught to create programs based on the case study model. You were given a description of a client who had a health concern, and you spent hours and hours researching that concern to find possible solutions and to create a beautiful report that outlined from start to finish, painful detail, everything your client would ever need to know to achieve total health. You maybe hit the books and you spend hours on the internet doing all this research, designing and crafting this program, but it contains way too much information. And all those hours you spend doing research are hours that you are not paid for, unless you're charging a lot. Now, I don't know exactly where you live, but where I live, the economy is not great. And it's kind of expensive to live here. And what that really means is that I have to charge a certain amount per hour to make my business work, to pay my bills and all that kind of stuff. So let's imagine that you charge $100 an hour for the time that you're with your client, but you go off and you actually spend another 4 hours. And I've taught to practitioners who spend at least 4 hours of their own time doing research. So you've now spent 5 hours for that client, which means that you're really only earning $20 an hour. Is that a livable wage? Now, you might live somewhere where that is a livable wage, and that's great. You might live somewhere where that's not a livable wage, and that's not good. But you put all this information together and you write it up in this beautiful report and you give it to your client and you feel like you're giving great value. But when you give them the report, they feel overwhelmed. They leave your office looking like a deer in the headlights, or worse, they're just discouraged. And they try to do what you've outlined, but it lasts for maybe 36 hours. And you know what? Then they feel like a failure. And they feel like they could never be that perfect. And because they feel like a failure, they're not coming back to see you. No one likes to come back and say, I just couldn't do it. Have you ever had people tell you they couldn't do it? Or have you ever seen that look on their face that goes, you want me to do what? I'm never going to do all of this. If you've seen that, I'd like to know that in the chat box. And here's the solution as you're typing in that answer. Less is more. It really is. Now, this will likely be painful for you at first. It was really hard for me to learn how to do this. But give less homework. Chunk it down into doable steps and give only 2 or 3 small steps for appointment. Telling someone they need to alkalize their diet, which means cutting out dairy and red meat and white flour, while they're increasing their leafy greens to 5 ounces every day, and that's roughly enough to feed an elephant, and that they need to drink half their body weight in water every day, is too much, too hard, going in too many directions. There's that old saying that says, pick your battles. And that's what you need to do here. You need to take what you know about your client and choose 1 or 2 things, maybe 3, that will really help them. So you're not going to take them from drinking no water to half their body weight in water every day in a week or 2. So maybe one of their steps is drink 2 glasses of water a day. Maybe one of their steps is to reduce their red meat consumption to 4 times a week instead of 7 times a week, and to use chicken or fish on the other days, or a vegan protein. Maybe one of the other things they need to do is start eating leafy greens. So you suggest not this much, but this much as their starting point. So you give them things where they say, I can do that. And you know that even for those simple changes, they will experience some little positive increase in their health and their energy. It's not going to be a total overhaul. They're not going to feel like a new person by the time they see you again, but they will start to see small, incremental, measurable changes. And you know what? They want to come back and tell you about it. You can say, when you do these things, I know that, or I would expect to see better bowel movements. I would expect to see fewer headaches. I would expect to see whatever, and let them know what they could expect to see if they do this 100%, so that when they do those 2 or 3 precise changes and they come back to you and they're seeing those changes, they're excited. You suddenly are a genius because you've given them what they can do and they're getting results. They now have a foundation and you can work with that. Let's increase your water to 4 glasses a day. Let's increase the salad to 2 servings like this, 1 at lunch, 1 at supper. And you begin to craft what they're doing in small steps so they can be hugely successful. They want to come back and tell you about it, and you can just continue to build. We call this being massively successful in baby steps. I can't tell you how many clients come back to me on the second, the first, or they're in for the first, and I will say to them, this is what we're doing. Is that all? I'll say yes. And they'll say, well, the last herbalist I went to gave me this many things to do. And I'll say, and how'd that work for you? Well, I couldn't do it. Okay, so why do you think I'm giving you just these 2 or 3 small things? Oh, because then I could do it. Yeah, that's how it works. And they get excited because they can do it. They can come back and tell me they were 95% successful, and I'm going, yes, we totally win. Does that make sense? Is that working for you? Does that make life a little easier? Stumbling block number 2, you start at the wrong place in their program. You know, you can't help them correct a leaky gut if the stomach isn't producing enough acid. You can't help them lose weight through diet and exercise if their intestinal flora is out of balance. You can't help them if you start in the wrong place in their program. You have to have a way of figuring out what comes before that, what comes before that, what comes before that, what comes before that. All right, this is the root. That's what we need to work on. You have to start at the beginning, at that root, if you are going to help your client achieve real, long-time, doable success. You need to create a map. I call it a therapeutic sequence for you to refer to keep you on track, working from the roots up. This goes into your client notes. This is outlining the next 4 to 6 appointments. And I'm going to show you how to do that on that, on the download that I'll give you at the end of this session. And when you've got that outlined in pencil, because sometimes things need to be rearranged and change order, but you've got an idea of how you're going to accomplish this. When you refer to that outline in every appointment, you can use it as a tickler file. So like I said earlier, at the end of their appointment, you're saying, when you get these in place, get this done, we expect to see this, and it's a tiny improvement. And as we see that happening, then we can work on the next step. And so your clients love that because they know a couple of things. Number one, you heard them clearly. You're not just throwing Band-Aids at them. You heard them clearly and you understand the process. So you have a plan. And it also reinforces that they need to be on point with their homework if they want to get to the second step, and then the third, and then the fourth, and then the fifth. When you do that, you get a couple of things. Number one, you don't overwhelm your client. Number two, you get better compliance. And number three, they keep wanting to work with you because they're getting results. This helps you to not fire hose them. I always tell my clients when I'm giving them their homework and their next steps, I can only do my best work if my clients do their best work. So if they will do their best work with the things that I've educated and shared with them, then I can keep doing my best work for them. Stumbling block number 3. Some nutrition coaches use computerized assessments, and I've used these in the past. And I've had a couple of different ones. And you know what? I've ditched them. I no longer use computerized things or the biometric doodads, the little hand scanners and the finger scanners and hold these rods and that kind of stuff. I don't do that anymore for a couple of reasons. Number 1, I wasn't really impressed with their accuracy. And number 2, they really got in the way of creating rapport with my clients. My clients started coming in wanting to be scanned. That to me is not holistic. I want engagement with them. I want to understand them. I don't want to scam them. Lengthy questionnaires are no better than that because they ask all of these questions that are irrelevant, that just waste your client's time, that muddy the waters. You still do need your informed consent form that outlines for your client who you are, what you do, how you work, and what you can and can't do. But you don't need to use biometric doodads when you've got your nutrition, your herbology, naturopathy, whatever you've got under your belt. You don't need biometric doodads when you know how to ask the right questions and get to the root of things. And that's what our solution here is here. So the solution to those computer scans and the biometric doodads is learning how to ask the right kinds of questions. And then learning how to listen and observe for the answers. This is so important. So, in school, we were taught how to use these long and tedious questionnaires, but we weren't taught how to identify the best questions that would help us get to the root of what we need to understand our clients all the way. There is more power in client-specific, well-designed questions than there ever will be in a questionnaire. I guarantee that. The best questions are based on just 2 things. The first one is what your client really wants help with. And the second is what the roots of those problems really are. When you understand how to use constitutional iridology, especially the way it's taught in Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, I teach you how to use the iris analysis combined with the client's concerns to create relevant, laser-focused questions that help you to isolate the root of the problem quickly and easily. So important. As much as you'd like to think this, your stumbling block number 4, as much as you'd like to think that you are unique, and I'm sure you are in some ways, just not in the ways that are helping your business right now. And I know that hurts, but it's absolutely true. Coming out of school, out of nutrition school, you weren't unique. You were just like the 30 or 40 other students who graduated when you did, except if you went in with massage or a nursing degree or acupuncture or something like that. So you probably are not unique. And if you don't add the right skills and the right tools to your repertoire, you are going to continue to remain ununique, which means you blend in with the crowd. You blend in with all of the other nutrition coaches that are out there. Being unique as a nutrition coach does not mean having a recipe book or a Facebook page. It means having a unique skill set that adds value to what you do. I know a lot of nutritionists and herbalists and NDs who continue to add skills and tools to their tool set, and that's good, right? Right? Until they realize that they've invested a lot of time and money in things they aren't using. And that is so frustrating. If you've spent thousands of dollars on a course and you aren't using it, and why aren't you using it? Because you weren't taught how to integrate it into what you do. So let's do a quick review of the 4 things we just went over. This is what you've learned already today. You ready for this? Number 1, When you fire hose your clients with too much information, you've successfully made their appointment, their health, and their program all about you. Look at me. Look at what I know. I'm so great. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. It's absolutely true. When you chunk the homework down into doable steps to ensure your client's success, they know they've been heard and you've made their appointment, their health, and their program all about them. Does that make sense? Stumbling block number 2, when you start at the wrong place in the program because you are giving your client what you think your client expects, you are failing them. And you're failing as a practitioner. But when you have a plan, you've got a roadmap, the client may not get earth-shattering, amazing results they were hoping for overnight, but you know that their progress and their success will be more solid. Create a plan for them, modify it only if the results the client is getting demand it. Stick to your outline. Take the time you need to get the client from point A to point B to point C to get them to where they want to go. Number 3, avoid the temptation to use expensive rapport-busting techno gadgets unless you want to be replaced by them. I mean, do you want to get replaced by the hottest, the latest, the electronic thing that comes along? Or do you want to be respected in your field and be working with your clients in such a way that they want to work with you? Instead, you need to learn how to ask those right questions, the best questions, not just any questions, but the best, most relevant questions. Build that deep rapport and allow your clients to feel truly heard based on the questions you're asking them. That alone will make you indispensable. You know, I've got clients that have been with me for about 30 years. I could easily do their sessions in 15 minutes. I know them well, they know me well. But you know what? They book 60-minute time slots. Why would they do that? They do it because when they come in, they say, you listen, I know you've heard me. You treat me like a person. And I go, yes, that's exactly what I want my clients to feel. I want them to know not only are they important to me, but I value them in oh so many ways. And I will listen to anything they want to tell me. Absolutely anything. Number 4, you are not unique. You blend in with the nutrition coaching crowd. And if you don't add the right skills and tools to your repertoire, you will remain ununique. The turning point for my business happened when I became unique in a way that helped me to integrate many of the skills I had already learned but wasn't using fully. That thing that made me unique also helped me to eliminate the unpaid homework. It helped me to start keeping my appointments down to the allotted time. It helped me to throw away my questionnaire. And I've never had a client complain about not having to fill out a questionnaire. That thing has helped me to ask better questions, to get to the root of the problem, and to create powerful and effective therapeutic sequences. It helps me to break the client homework down into doable pieces, to assess my clients more quickly, and to create deep rapport with my clients almost instantaneously. Now, you showed up today because you wanted some of this. You wanted to stop working overtime for free so you can spend more time with your loved ones or see more clients or increase your income or have a hobby. You wanted to become super confident with the recommendations you make without doing tons of research to prove your point, because you know your stuff. If you've got the nutrition training, the herbal training, if you're a naturopath, you know your stuff. You showed up today because you wanted to create programs that your clients can actually stick with so they can get great results. And because you don't want to have to keep finding new clients, you want your new clients to find you. You want your existing clients to do your advertising for you. And you showed up because you want to be happy and earn a good living as a nutrition coach, so you can stop thinking you should get a real job. So at the beginning of this training, I made you some promises, and I kept my promise to show you some of the simplest ways to stop working unpaid overtime, the easiest ways to get your clients to get better client compliance, and how to keep your clients coming back without overwhelming them. Now, here's the thing I want you to remember, that everything I've shared with you today isn't some random theory. It's not something I think might work. Everything I've walked you through today works. It's worked for me. It's worked for my students. And we all started from pretty much the same place where you're at right now. Now, I'm not special, and my students and my graduates aren't special. We all have clients to see. We all have families to take care of, and we all have things we want to do. But the system is set up so that you can find success. And if my students and I can do this, I am confident you can too. You've already invested so much to get to where you are. Now it's time to maximize that investment and create the nutrition practice you've always dreamed of. One where you stop working overtime to create your programs while you're still incorporating all the skills you have already, and that will get you better compliance, and it will create long-term client loyalty. How cool is that? Now you've got a choice. You can keep doing what you're doing, hoping things will magically change while you continue working unpaid overtime and continue missing time with your loved ones, so you can keep overwhelming your clients so they don't come back while you get discouraged and keep thinking, I should get a real job. Or you can make some radical changes in what you do and how you think, so you can ditch the overtime and have a life that actually includes time with your loved ones, because you give your clients exactly what they need to succeed, so they want to come back again and again, while you think, I love the career I've created for myself. The choice is yours. Throughout this webinar, you've heard me mention Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology. Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology is so much more than an iridology course. It's also a mentorship program that can help you put an end to your unpaid homework while helping you integrate all of the things you already know. So would it be okay if I took a few minutes to introduce this program to you and show you how it can actually help you? If that's yes, if you'd like that, give me a yes in the chat box. You know, I have to tell you that constitutional iridology learning, constitutional iridology was really the turning point for me. When I learned how to apply it in a truly holistic way, my business and my life started to become more successful. Because of constitutional iridology, again, all of my work is done right in my client time. In my paid sessions, I no longer donate hours to writing reports. I have no more impositions of 30-minute phone freebies. I've got no more overwhelmed clients, and I've got lots more happy, successful, achieving their health goals, repeat long-term clients. And actually, having been in business as long as I have, I'm now on the third generation of some of these client families, where I started working with women who were in their early 20s. They've had their babies, and their babies are now having babies. And that's a pretty strong testimonial when I've got 3 generations of a family coming in. Constitutional iridology is the science of looking at the iris, or the colored part of the eye, and understanding what the various colors and fiber structures teach us about a person's genetic potential. The way I practice constitutional iridology includes understanding how to analyze the blood vessels in the sclera, or the white of the eye, to assess the current physiology of the body. So we have got two parts here. We've got what is the inherent part? What have they inherited from their parents? That's the iris. And we've got the sclera, which is what they're doing with their body. Combining these two sciences helps us find the root of the imbalances and possible solutions for those imbalances. Now, you already know my first passion is helping my clients achieve greater success. And constitutional iridology is a huge part of that. My second passion is coaching and mentoring nutrition coaches to greater success. And read that as no unpaid homework and many long-term repeat clients, by teaching them how to integrate constitutional iridology into their practices. It is true that constitutional iridology will help enable you to use the other modalities you already have more effectively and with more confidence to create the kind and size of nutrition or holistic health coaching business you want and desire. So let's do a quick little analysis and see an iris analysis and see how this actually works. This was a client. This is a client I had worked with for many years. She wanted to get pregnant. She had tried for 3 years, and the doctors had diagnosed her as being type 2 diabetic. All they had offered her was metformin, which is an oral insulin or an oral blood sugar regulator, and Clomid to get her to hyperovulate. They didn't teach her about diet. They didn't teach her about supplements. There was no lifestyle coaching. So what questions would I ask based on these eyes, knowing that little bit about this person? Well, my first questions were, how do you handle stress? She's an accountant, and there are certain times of the year that she really doesn't like her job. It's super high stressful. When she gets under stress, she wants to go home and just be alone. And her husband is also an accountant, and he knows that about her. So when it's tax season or year end, he knows that he just needs to let her be. Just leave her alone. She has indicators in her eyes that suggest that she has the MTHFR defect, which means she doesn't deal with her B vitamins properly. And if you're familiar with pregnancy and fertility, you need to have that folate in the right place. And it needs to be the right form of folate as one of your B vitamins. Because of her eye color, it made me ask her, did she have any food cravings? Because the liver helps with carbohydrate metabolism, and we needed to work with that. So the inherent tendencies that I see in her eyes are that she probably doesn't handle her B vitamins well. She probably burns through her calcium and magnesium too fast. She probably has the MTHFR defect, and she probably needs liver support. Using that information, we were able to, over some time, craft a new eating program for her, which was a challenge because she is Asian, and rice and white flour and white sugar were her huge part of her diet. Her husband is also Asian, and he very gently said to her, "Sweetheart, I will take over the food prep. I will do all the cooking. You have enough to worry about." So he did. He helped her with all of her food, made sure that her lunches were packed, that were compliant with the things that we were asking. And it took us a few months to get the diet in place. Then we started tweaking the supplements. We worked together for 18 months, and then she got pregnant. And then I got to work with her for another year through her pregnancy and after she had her baby. And now they are coming in as a family. I would not have known to address liver or the MTHFR defect or her B vitamins or even her diet so much if I hadn't seen her eyes. I would have guessed at diet because she also had a diagnosis of PCOS. I would have guessed at diet that we needed to work there. But there were enough other indicators in her eyes that suggested we needed more than just diet. I do a lot of work with infertility and high-risk pregnancy, so this is another client of mine. She had been trying for a full year to get pregnant. And so what questions would I ask based on these eyes? Based on these eyes, I'd ask her about her stress and anxiety and how does she cope. I would ask her also about her ability to handle her MTA, ask her about her ability to handle her folic acid properly. And I would ask her about her overall hormones. Now, all the markers that I've just circled can mean several things. It's when we put them together that we begin to understand how those markers inform the questions we want to ask and the kinds of recommendations we want to make. And of course, those all change based on the client's goals. So she tends to have a lot of anxiety, and she really probably at that point, I was really guessing she had the MTHFR defect as well, and guessing solidly. It was a strong idea in my brain from what I saw. She actually did 23andMe and discovered she has the MTHFR defect. We did, her diet was really good. It needed just minor tweaking, but she needed the right B vitamins to compensate for the MTHFR defect. She successfully got pregnant. It's a little bit of a stressful pregnancy because she has anxiety. And so every time there was a little thing that someone who'd maybe had 2 or 3 babies or someone who was a little more calm would just kind of brush off, she panicked about. Well, she had her baby at the end of August in a very successful labor and delivery. So with your permission now that you can see how this ties into what you do, I would like to show you more about the course. Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology is a live, online, mentored course for nutritionists, herbalists, and naturopaths who want to streamline their clinical work without sacrificing client care, so they can stop working unpaid overtime to develop client programs, so they can stop overwhelming their clients with undoable programs, and so they can create programs that will increase client compliance, success, and long-term retention. The goal of Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology is to teach you constitutional iridology and how to use it confidently, so that you can easily integrate what you already know about nutrition and herbology to confidently create doable client programs in your paid client sessions. So here's what you get when you enroll in Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology. You get a step-by-step live webinar-based course that teaches constitutional iridology in a logical and sequential manner. So it's delivered just like we're doing right now over live webinars. There is time within the classes to practice what you've learned and to be coached. There's loads of mentoring, and we'll go over how that happens to help you confidently apply what you've learned. And here's how it's all delivered. You get 20 2-hour-long live interactive webinars. We have very small class sizes. I keep my classes to less than 10 students to make sure that everybody in the class gets the time they need if they have questions, and for us to do a little bit of practicing together as well. This course contains all the curriculum you need should you decide you want to certify as an iridologist with the International Iridology Practitioners Association. And you'll have access to the online materials for as long as I'm teaching iridology, and I promise you I'm not planning on quitting soon because this is something I love. We're going to go over all of the things that you get in just a moment. The value of this course, of this 40-hour training, is $23.95 Canadian. So I'd love to know if you are in Canada or not, and if you've ever purchased anything in those exotic Canadian dollars. Because if you haven't, if you're in the States or the UK or Australia, I'll go through what the exchange rates are to help you understand what that really means to you. So right now, let's run down the curriculum. The lessons break down like this. So lesson 1 And lesson 1 is the introduction. That's a foundation piece. Lesson 2 through 4 talks about the constitutions and the constitutional subtypes. These make your iris analysis so quick and so easy. Some styles of iris analysis are really map heavy, and you look at individual markings to figure things out. That is not how constitutional iridology works. When you understand your constitutions and your subtypes, that is over half of your assessment, and that will take you less than 5 minutes when you know it. Lesson 5 is pigment, and that is the little extra colors that you'll see in an eye. These help us to understand which organs are inherently prone to being out of balance and which organs will suffer, if you will, for those organs being out of balance. Lessons 6 through 8, we talk about fiber variations and lacunae. That helps us to understand where there might be some hidden inherent predispositions that might be waiting to become health concerns. Lesson 9 and 10, we really need to understand how the nervous system shows up in the eyes and how it affects what we see in the eyes. And we need to understand the nutritive zone, because as nutritionists, so much of what we do goes back to digestion. When we see those inherent patterns in the eyes, it gives us a deeper insight to understand why our client has those health problems. And that's what Karen Choate found. She found that being a gut specialist, understanding the nutritive zone and the collarette actually really helped her out, because the collarette, which is a specific marking in the eye, correlates to both nervous system and digestive function. When we understand things like the humeral and ciliary zone, that shows us how different organs are programmed to use the nutrients. It shows us how things like the bones are programmed to use nutrients. Contraction furrows tell us how a client uses their B vitamins, their vitamin C, their calcium, their magnesium. Tells us where they might be prone to more pain or discomfort. We look at syndromes and zone 7 in the eyes, which again just speed up the iris analysis when you understand what the syndromes are. If you see those, you've shortened the time it takes you to do a really amazing analysis. Lesson 17, we talk about how eyes change, because eyes do change, just not the way everyone's talking about it on social media. They change in other ways that are significant and meaningful. Lessons 18 and 19, we look at the sclera, the white of the eye, and how that dynamically informs us about our clients' well-being and what's going on right now. Lesson 20 is the wrap-up, where we make sure that you know what's expected of you if you're deciding to certify with IPA. So here's what we've got. The 22-hour live webinars are worth $23.95 Canadian. We do one live class per week. And I want you to take a moment and consider that this is a 40-hour class and what it would cost you if you had to go somewhere to take this as a face-to-face class. You'd have your tuition, and most of the face-to-face classes happen in the US, and they run from $1,200 to $1,750 US. Most of them are run over 2-3 day weekends. So if it's not being held in your hometown or close enough to drive, you've got to fly out and have hotel twice. What's that going to cost you? Then you've got your travel, right? You've got your meals while you're there. You've got your ground transportation when you're there. You maybe have travel insurance that you need to buy. Time off work. If you're doing this as a 5 or 6 day course and you have to take a whole week off work, what's that going to cost you? Have you left other expenses at home, like childcare, elder care, pet care, things like that? Easily over and above your tuition, you'd be looking at $2,000 US in expenses. Now, I've found over the years that I don't learn well in intensive courses. By the time I get to a day and a half or two, my brain is mush. I learn best in little bits where I can learn something, go and practice it, study it, come back, ask questions, learn some more, go, and you get the picture, right? And I find that my students learn that way best as well, because there's a ton of content in this program. It's really important that you have confidence to know that there's other people like you who've had success with this. because sometimes it's hard to believe that if you're struggling in your business, that there could be a solution that could work for you. So we want to share some of those stories with you before we go on with a little bit more about the class. This is Laura Orvieto. She was welcoming one of our new students. Laura came in with some good herbal training under her belt. And she said, I've been a student of Judith since September, and I'm loving every minute of it. That is so cool. We have Sharon Bimrose, who was a naturopath in Australia. She'd already taken iridology as a part of her naturopathy training. And she said, Judith's course in Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology surpassed my previous training in structure, content, delivery, documentation, and support. Iridology has certainly reduced the time required for prioritizing a treatment plan. It has without a doubt been a huge game changer to my practice. Sharon used to see her client, take pictures of the eyes, then she would spend a few hours writing up a report and recommendations that she would email back to the client. She wasn't charging enough to cover all of her hours. She was wondering why she was struggling. Welcoming or congratulating some new students or some students who had just finished their coursework. Helen Murdoch said, she was one of the ones who just finished it, what a great educational experience. Thank you, Judith. So let me spend a minute here to tell you a little bit about what happens in a course in a session. So you receive the webinar link that is good for all 20 sessions, and you log on. You hopefully have a camera and a microphone because we want interaction. So when you register for the course, you're going to receive an email that will contain that one link that you're going to need. And I suggest you copy it and paste it and put it in your calendar. Each week, you simply click on that link and join us at the right time with your microphone and your camera, and we study eyes together. You can attend from a computer or tablet or a phone, but I do suggest that the bigger the screen, the easier it will be for you to learn. I've had some people try to do this on, a small tablet, and they have struggled because they can't get the expanded images quite as easily until they go and listen to the recording, and then they can play with it. But when it's live, they can't. This course has a lot of interaction, and we talk a lot back and forth. Students ask a ton of questions, and I have it that way so that we can ask questions and answer questions in real time. So if that kind of interactive learning is something that really gets you excited and that's how you learn, I'd love to see I'm an interactive learner in the comments box. And while you're doing that, let's go on with things that are included. Every class is recorded. And I do that because sometimes, in that 2 hours we spend together, you think you've got it. But then when you're studying it, you're thinking, no, maybe I don't have it. And you want to go back and you want to review the class. So we do a video of every class, a recording of it, and it is stored on your student site. So you can go back and review that class as much as you want. That is there for you to really get the most out of it. Michelle Davies came to me as a certified natural practitioner at an RNCP here in Canada. She was certified. She had 3 iridology certificates from Dr. David Pesic and 1 from Darko Purse. So she already had iridology, but she says Judith's course is very complete as it contains the most accurate iridology, including sclerology, and most importantly, how to put it all together and make a proper assessment. That is something that most teachers do not teach. Graziella Alexandrova said, I've taken an iridology course with another instructor, but Judith's course, Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, surpasses it in knowledge delivery and supported documentation. It is one thing to have a profound knowledge and yet another to have the ability to express it clearly to teach others. Judith Cobb teaches in a manner that students can understand, believe, and trust the information. She is both a knowledgeable and skillful instructor. It was a pleasure and honor to be Judith's student and to be exposed to the most advanced techniques of client assessment utilizing constitutional iridology. I love these comments, not because they give me an inflated ego, but because they tell me that I am doing this the way I intend to do it, that I want it to be something that my students really, really benefit from. Stephanie came to me with a master's in education. She understands teaching. She said, I have several books on iridology, and I tried to teach myself and spent hours online and on YouTube watching various portions of classes and presentations. They were so conflicting and confusing and overwhelming. I told my husband, this is beyond me. I'm not getting this at all. I was doing internet searches and kept hearing conflicting things, and I kept searching on the internet, and I stumbled across your YouTube channel and thought, oh my, this person knows how to teach. That was my introduction to a very reasonable approach, one that resonated with me. So that, again, I was so happy to hear that, that I was teaching in a way that made sense, that was clear, that she could understand and learn from. Brilliant. Karen went on to say, later, iridology has helped me understand the relationships between different organs and organ systems more in depth. Iridology also gives me an advantage of seeing the potential for different genetic traits and qualities that may be underlying. By observing the constitution, for example, you can extrapolate how the person's body will likely respond to applications of healing methods. Therefore, it has helped me to expand my knowledge and increased efficiency at providing more precise recommendations for health-oriented options. Fabulous, fabulous. So what else is included? Well, every topic we talk about in our 2-hour classes is recorded individually and cleanly and stored on your student site. So if you just need to review one little thing, you don't have to listen to 2 hours if you don't want to. You can go and listen to that one topic. So this is actually like having the course 3 times over. 3 times over. Pretty amazing stuff. So the total value of Confident Nutritionist is $71.85 Canadian. This course includes an amazing amount of mentoring, both during the course and for the long term after you complete the course. We're going to go over that in a minute. But if all this program did was give you a step-by-step system so that you could eliminate your unpaid overtime and get your programs designed in your paid sessions without missing time with loved ones, would that be worth it? Well, here's the deal. The program is worth $7,185. And, you know, back then it would have freaked me out to spend that much. I mean, 40 years ago, you can imagine $7,000. My house back then cost me $50,000. So $7,000 would have just done me in, would have freaked me out. But I've come up with what I think is a very reasonable tuition based on the amount and the level of support you'll be receiving. Does that sound good? If you're ready to get your client programs done in your client sessions, and if you think this is the next best move for you, you can get started right now with one payment of $529 Canadian and a total of 5 payments, or one payment of $23.95. I bet you're relieved that it's not $71.85, right? Oh yeah, but Christmas is coming. And our next course start date is January 15th. So we're a couple of months out. So I think if you are ready to commit really quickly to this program, that I can do something to help you out a little bit here. Until Wednesday, November 13th at 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, if you opt for the payment plan, it'll be 5 monthly payments, of $489 Canadian. Or if you opt for the one pay plan, it will be $21.95 Canadian. So what does that really mean? Well, if you're in the US, you can knock about 25% off this. When it goes through your credit card, that will convert it, and you're going to be paying $420-ish, $410-ish. If you are doing the one pay, again, knock about 25% off this if you're in the States, and that's going to bring you in at about $1650-ish. But that's only until Wednesday, November 13th. So let's look at this. Wednesday, January 15th is our start date, right? And the class time will be 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 till 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So you can find your time zone here. Are you Pacific? Are you Central? Are you Eastern? Are you Greenwich Mean Time? So you're in London, England, or thereabouts. Or maybe you're in Australia and you're on Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So this was for Sydney, Australia. If you're in Australia, you know your time zones. This is the registration link that will take you to the special pricing until the 13th. But there's a whole lot more coming up. What else do you get in this class? Most teachers of Iridology make you purchase your own textbook. And the two most popular textbooks that are out there right now cost $250 US. I've written the textbook for my students. It's a digital downloadable textbook, and then you can go print it up if you want. It's a $250 value. It is over 200 pages long, and it is loaded with full color images to help you see things clearly. Most Iridology teachers make you buy an Iridology map. And that map, they typically charge $25 for it. I've designed a map as well that is digital and downloadable, and I include that as a bonus for $25. If you want to print it up and take it and laminate it, have at it. Cheat sheets. You know, when I was in university, I always wanted to study quickly, and that meant making cheat sheets, which meant making notes of the things that were important to learn. So I literally would make notes out of my textbooks. A little OCD on that perhaps. But my students also find that while the textbook is brilliant, it's really not the best option if you're actually doing an iris analysis with a client. And so we've taken the entire curriculum, put it into 45 pages of beautifully indexed and totally organized notes so that you can quickly and easily jog your memory on things that you might have forgotten. So the cheat sheets have a $175 value. Again, downloadable, digital, print them up if you want. Private Facebook hours, or private Facebook group and office hours calls, why are those worth $10,000 a piece? Now, you might be thinking, that's pretty rich. This woman is off her rocker. Let me tell you why this is actually worth 20,000 Canadian. I really believe in mentoring. I really believe in coaching my students even after they've finished their coursework. So when you are in the course, you absolutely have access to our private Facebook group to ask questions, to post images, to get support. You have access to our office hours calls that happen twice a month. And you can ask questions and share images with us for us to discuss and all that kind of stuff. So that's really cool. Most courses that I've ever seen that have Facebook groups or office hours kick you out when you finish the program. I do not. I encourage my students and my grads to keep coming to the Facebook calls and the office hours, or the Facebook group and the office hours calls right up until I decide to retire. Years of extra mentoring. That means if you're looking at an eye and it's not quite making sense for you, you bring it to us either in the Facebook group or the office hours calls, and we help you make sense of it. Right? I've got some brilliant students. Well, all of my students are brilliant. Some of them really like to contribute and help, and it's fabulous because they know their stuff. So for those of you who like that idea of having ongoing mentorship, there it is right there for you. The office hours calls, there's one is at noon Mountain Standard Time and the other's at 4 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. That's in an effort to try to hit the UK and Australia with at least one time a month. But these are all recorded. They're all recorded. So if you can't make it to office hours, it gets recorded and you will have access to that until I retire, right? And so as we look at this, you have so much support even after the fact. Now, at the end of the course, I will gift you with an IPA student membership, which is, they've gone up in price, at 80, we'll just go with 85 because that's what's on the screen, $85 Canadian value. If you want to certify with IPA, you have to have a membership in order to sit for the exam. So I give that to you, and I wait till the end of the course because you have exam 1 and exam 2 to do with me prior to doing the IPA written exam. These have value because IPA 1 is 10 case studies that I give you. You write them up, you send them back to me, I read them, I go over them, then we spend an hour together, just you and me in a Zoom call like this on a private webinar, going over those to make sure you are rock solid. And then I give you a final case study that IPA provides to me. You write it up, the analysis and the recommendations, and you send it back to me and I go through it. Then we meet together for another hour one-on-one to make sure you are rock solid. And then I let IPA know this student is so ready. Then you apply to IPA to take the exam, you pay them their exam fee, you do the exam, and away we go. But I include all of this, the membership and the mentoring, as bonuses for all of my students in case you want to just even test yourself. Maybe you don't want to do the IPA written exam, that's fine. But if you want to do this just to test yourself, just to prove you know what you know, or if you do want to go on for IPA certification, this is the map that you need to get there. Now, IPA also does require that you provide proof of a college level anatomy and physiology course with a grade on that transcript in order to complete your certification with them, and you need to know that. By giving you this membership right here, that says you have just under a year to complete your IPA exam. It's my way of giving you a bit of a deadline to make sure you don't quit before you're done, if that's your goal, if your goal is to finish it. So all total, the bonuses alone add up to nearly $29,000. The total value of the course and all of the bonuses, which is everything from here on down, $31,387. So if all this program did was give you that confidence so that you could create your client programs right in your paid client sessions and integrate everything you already know so that you could actually have time off to be with loved ones or increase your income perhaps, all within a 5 to 6 month time frame, would that be worth it? Laura Orvieto went on to say, I highly recommend this course. Judith presents the material in easily digestible segments with recorded class sessions, so you can go back to her as many times as needed. Her e-textbook and the easy reference guides, the private Facebook group where we can discuss concepts and ask questions between classes and after the course is finished, have all made this one of the best learning experiences I've ever had. I'm still studying herbology and nutrition, and Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology is helping me to integrate everything I'm learning. I feel so blessed to have found this class. So again, oops, I did not update that slide. If you get on before Wednesday, November 13th at 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, you will be making 5 monthly payments of $489 or 1 payment of $23.95. And just to help you out, oops, that's not quite where I meant to go. Just let me come back here. I don't have that in a way I can cut and paste it for you. My apologies. iridology.education/early-bird-registration. Okay, so we did it. We are really near the end of our webinar, and thank you so much for staying until the end. So like I promised at the beginning, this is the imbalance priority checklist, and I am just going to do a quick copy paste here for you. And we are going to do this. So you can click on the link that you see in the chat box, or you can copy and paste this if you'd like, whichever works for you. Now, here is what you need to know about this form. You're looking at that going, that's just a form. And I'm going, yeah, it is. And it's got columns on it. And those columns are to be addressed in appointment. And you're going to see you've got 1, 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s. So appointment number 1 gets 2 rows. 2 rows. What is the imbalance? And if you do iridology, you could fill this in that you've noted from iridology. What are the markers that are telling you that where you need to be headed here? What is the dietary action? What are the supplements you're recommending? And what is the lifestyle action recommended? And so as you go through this, what you're going to do is in that first appointment, maybe fill out to the end of appointment 4, the things that you've noted in the irides and the sclera and what needs to be done about it. And that gives you that roadmap of where you need to be heading. It helps you to chunk it down. If your recommendations take more than this much space on the page, you are giving too much information. Just saying, you are fire hosing. All right. Now, I've got one more download for you, and that is if you would like the 4 stumbling blocks we talked about today, they are available in the link that I just posted on the chat box. Again, 4 keys to better client appointments. And that's going to help you, again, remember what the stumbling blocks are and what the solutions are. Okay. However, I want you to keep in mind that this course, Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, the early bird registration is going to disappear in just a week. Some questions you might have. Is this a correspondence or self-learning or self-paced course? No, this is a fully mentored course. If you need to miss a class, no biggie deal, because the recording will be posted in your student site for you to make it up. And so it's not a big problem, but it is not self-paced. We do a class a week and we take the 20 weeks to get this done. Is this a group course? Absolutely. You will move through the program with the other people in your cohort. And when you're in the Facebook group and in the office hours webinars, you will also meet the alumni, previous students who are still hanging out with us and having a ton of fun and learning lots. How long will it take you to do the course? Well, the course is 20 weeks long, right? Because we've got 20 classes. We'll have 1 class a week. And if you are going to, so it's going to take you 20 weeks to cover the curriculum. If you choose to certify, you've got about 10 months after that where you will have access for one-on-one mentorship, where I will mark your case studies and things like that. After that is done, after that time has lapsed, I will no longer grade work for you to certify. You will have to purchase a certification package from me. Again, it's my way of saying, don't slack off. Be focused, get it done. Do remember that exam fees are your responsibility to pay to IPA if you choose to certify. How much time do you need to set aside to do the program? Well, you need 2 hours for the class and 2 to 3 hours to study and to practice assessing. You do need to be starting your practice right away. As soon as we start looking at eyes in the course, that's your cue to start looking at eyes in real life. I'm going out of town next month. Will I fall too far behind? This course is taught by webinar. You can join from anywhere in the world if the time zone works for you. And the recordings are posted. So if you miss a class, maybe you're sick, maybe you have a crisis in your family and you've got to miss a class or 2, no problem, because those recordings will be posted on your student site and you will be able to watch them as many times as you want, in order or out of order, whatever works for you. How do I know if this course is right for me? If you're a nutritionist, a herbalist, or a naturopath, an aromatherapist even, an acupuncturist perhaps, if you are looking for a proven way to assess client needs quickly and easily, this course is for you. When will you know enough to start using what you learn? By the end of the second lesson. By the end of the second lesson, where we start learning the constitutions, it is so important that you start looking at real live eyes to really get comfortable with that and to build your foundation so that we can keep building on it. I really encourage you to spend time every week looking at as many eyes as you possibly can. What else do you need to buy for this course? The only things you need to buy are a 5 to 10x magnifying glass, a pen light, and a lighted magnifier. Now, usually about a week before the class starts, I will go on Amazon and I will find things that work for this. And someone has removed, oh, there it is. There it is. And I will post links. Now, I don't make a cent off these. I'm not selling these, but I'm showing you that on Amazon, these would be acceptable and would be good for what you're doing. And when you see the links, you can take that to your local Target or Walmart or stamp collecting shop or whatever and buy things that are similar. It will cost you in Canadian dollars less than $75 and probably in the US less than $50. What if I don't like it? Can I get a refund? This is a certification course for professionals. As such, refunds are not available. My mandate in this course is to make this one of the best learning experiences you've ever had. And so that is another reason why I don't do refunds. Aside from the fact that there's so much downloadable information that you get right at the beginning, that it would not be appropriate to grant a refund because I have no way to recall that information from you. So what comes next? Well, go to iridology.education/early-bird-registration. Choose the payment option that works for you, the one payment of $21.95 or the 5 payments of $4.89. After paying, you will receive an email with a link to your enrollment contract. Complete the contract and submit it. Within 1 business day of me receiving the contract back, you will receive emails that contain your logon info for Zoom, your student sites, and your invitation to join us in the Facebook group. So if you're feeling just a little bit jittery, a little anxious, maybe even a little bit scared, that's an indication that you're in the right place at the right time, and that's how you should feel. I encourage you to hop on over to iridology.education and take that next step and get registered for Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology. If you have any tech issues during the registration process, please reach out to me. I put my email address on the screen, and I can actually put that down here as well. And I can actually get you registered over the phone. Just send me your phone number, and hopefully you're somewhere where I've got free long distance, which would be North America. If you are in the UK or in Australia, we'll work something out, but let me know what your challenges are if there's any problems with the registration. It's pretty straightforward, and I think you won't have any problems, but I really encourage you. If anything that I've said today has resonated with you, then I am suggesting that you need this course to help you move forward. Once again, that registration link, iridology.education/early-bird-registration. All right. So just want to throw out one last thing. Any questions? Any questions? And I'll give that just a few seconds. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything come through, unless it's a really long question. And with that, I am going to say thank you so much for spending this last hour and a half or so with me. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in class real soon. Thanks so much. Bye for now.